Hi, I've got a prescription for diabetes test strips. How much is the copay?
That could take me a while to calculate. In the meantime, you should think about over-the-counter Contour Next test strips. You get 35 for $19.99, and they're highly accurate. For full details, visit contournext.com/radio.
Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Dani, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. Hello, everyone. I am pumped to be talking to you right now about the Restore program. So my co-coach Ashley and I have been working since February on a new program, or our first program actually, for the HA Society. So in the past, the Society has been a membership support group. We've had tons of resources. We do coaching calls, but we've never brought in a structured program. So what we decided to do was take all of our experience working with hundreds of clients to basically create a structured program that is essentially the accumulation of all that we've learned from both working with those clients and with our members, and it's going to be amazing. Over 10 weeks, you're going to learn everything you need to know about how HA works, about how to approach nutrition, about how to approach exercise, how to approach lifestyle, and most importantly, all of it will have the underlying focus on mindset and making sure that you're approaching this in a way that is sustainable and that's actually going to help you recover forever. So come join us for our live 10-week program. We're going to meet every week. You're going to get education and action items, and most importantly, accountability. So Coach Ashley and I are going to be there to help you, as well as everyone else who joins the group. And so how this works is on August 17th, we will be going live with the program. We'll be opening the HA Society open to the public, and the program will start on the 17th. So it's actually going to be available for all members. So you basically just have to pay membership and you'll get to join the 10-week program. Make sure you're on the waitlist for it. Go to the hasociety.com/join. You'll be able to read on that website more about the actual breakdown of the weeks and what we're going to be covering. And you can join the waitlist there so that when it opens, you get notified. And we will see you on the day in the group. Cannot wait. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the HA podcast. I'm here with my co-coach, Ashley. Ashley, how are you?
Amazing. You guys can't tell, but my curls are under control right now. Or not even controlled, because you can't control them. But they're, I don't know.
They look good. They look intentional.
There you go.
While I have my hair in like the mum bun, I really need to wash it.
Didn't even know. I actually loved it.
Yeah, no, it's gross. I am just like not a cute hair person. But anyways, I digress. We're here today to talk to you guys about something else. Actually, I'd like to let you kind of intro in the thoughts that you had, and we'll start with your angle on this.
Yeah. So just some background. We have been doing free food reviews for our clients. And well, obviously our clients, but our new members and our existing members. We're really just taking a deep dive and really just addressing each person individually. So that's been really fun. So during that, I did a food review for somebody who, like, on the surface was like, man, she's really hitting all the boxes, you know. I love seeing carrots in the food reviews because we're always talking about carrots. And so I could see people like, I'm not going to say it's only because of us, but I love seeing people apply the things that we talk about. And so on the surface, I mean, she's like checking the boxes. And I think I even said to her, I was like, man, like you're doing great. And I think, don't hold me to this because we've done so many. I think she was coming from a vegan background. So again, she was just like, this was leaps and bounds of progress. It was amazing. And then, so I just had a few little individual suggestions. And I love what she said. She was like, yeah, I'm really trying to eat pro metabolic, which I was like, okay, I've heard that. Interesting. I've heard that coined as a term of the way that we're eating like just normal, whether it's like nose to tail, eating meats, just eating root vegetables, just kind of going back to like normal eating. And yet we've had to coin this term for normal eating. That's a whole other episode. But I said, I totally support that. And I think you're absolutely on the right track. But the biggest thing is in order to be pro metabolic, we can't be under eating and creating a thyroid issue while being quote unquote pro metabolic. Like we have to the first part of that is just simply eating enough. And so I just thought that was such an interesting insight. And she was like, you're so right. And I feel like I'm going to be hearing about this on a podcast. And I was like, well, do you mind if I bring that up? She goes, absolutely, go for it. But I love it because sometimes we can get so wrapped up in what way we're eating or what we're eating. And we forget the most basic principle of, but are you eating enough? So that was my take on it. And I can see your mind just like blowing up. So let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, my mind's kind of blowing up in the direction of like, it just sounds like you're removing restriction. Like you're just, and including everything, a diet that is fully inclusive of everything. And this idea, because I'm like you, I haven't heard a whole lot of like what else eating for metabolic goodness actually entails. But I assume it's like when you eat a bit of everything, you allow there to be like a robust enough supply of all nutrients, macro and micro, and thus like your body can then do its job. But when we start to restrict certain things, something in the body is like out of balance, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So again, like it's not that I don't care. So I'm not gonna say that I don't care, but I don't deep dive into any like one diet, but I would imagine that this would be like the talk around eating superior foods, such as like organ meats, beef over chicken, just stuff like that. Which again, probably just that, like, that's why I would say, I feel like it's kind of almost back to like ancestral way of eating, probably like a normal way of eating type of thing. So, but I'll be diligent. Okay. I'm gonna Google it right now, guys.
So on that, I've been thinking a lot about this when you mentioned like the ancestral eating. We also get very caught up in like variety and like I need to eat a little bit of everything every day. But I sometimes wonder how accurate that is, because in reality, at any given time, if we didn't have this whole fancy import-export business we had going on with food, at any given time, you'd have just like a lot of the same things available. So I was thinking about this. We have this huge peach tree in our backyard. It's massive. You can pick peaches off it from the second story of our house. It's so big. And so we have a lot of peaches. So we're eating a lot of peaches. And so it's like, even my baby's eating a lot of peaches. And I was thinking like, am I giving like too many peaches to this kid? Like, are we
too many peaches?
Too many peaches? But, that's right now we have an abundance of peaches. So I'm eating an abundance of peaches. And later we won't. And, maybe sometimes I have abundance of carrots and sometimes I don't have as much access to carrots. And I'm eating a lot of beef. And then I'm not able to eat a lot of beef. And I think we sort of worry sometimes that we're like eating too much of something and not enough of another thing, and being like we're becoming really focused on getting a bit of everything in. That I don't know, sometimes I wonder too, like, is that not that helpful?
Yeah, no, part of me definitely craves an experience because I don't want to commit to it fully right now. Truthfully, I do crave an experience of like 1 or 2 years of just eating of what's available and what's in season. Like, I just want to experience it. I want to experience.
And it would look like eating a lot of the same things for a period.
Yeah, for like certain seasons or what's available on the land, or, you know what I mean? Yeah, I would just be really interested on how things would change. Like, how does your mind respond to food? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does it look like to be like, well, avocados are only in this season?
Yeah. Like,
You know what
what
I
would
mean?
happen to your sort of food decision making and the
Yeah.
stories you create about food?
Mhm.
What would actually happen if you were somewhat just eating what was available? Like, it wasn't so much of a decision. It's not like deciding what you're going to wear every day. It's kind of just here. And we're really just thinking out loud right now.
Yeah.
But because we also kind of we do see issues like with the food review thing, right? We see people eat a lot of the same things every day, and sometimes that is the problem.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah. And so I think that that's one of those things of like, there's a difference between eating the same foods every single day and eating the same foods in a particular season.
yeah.
Yes, just because I think nature is way too smart in order for it to be like, well, you're going to be lacking 1/4 out of the year. I'm sure there's other foods that pick up the slack when it comes to like vitamins, minerals, you know what I mean? To the point of like the sweet potato isn't the only thing that has those combinations in it. I'm sure that there's another partnering vegetable, root, just something. I don't know. I'm just very fascinated. Like, what does that look like to do that? So, I mean, it's probably a wild wish. And I don't think that that has to mean like poverty either, right? So I think it just simply means like, what does it look like to like eat with nature?
So I think the reality is it looks like not just eating, what's in season, which could feel a bit repetitive, but it's also getting creative. This is where things like sauerkraut and jam and like agriculture in general, like flour and baking and things, like where they sort of were invented was out of this need to create more with what we have. And, in the process of pickling and fermentation comes new nutritional benefits. So there's definitely a way where like you're then changing the nutrient profile through those processes that you're taking the food through. So that does make sense, but you're right. Like, okay, so if you go through a season where you're lacking in one nutrient, yeah, the body is designed to compensate. We know this. If the body couldn't handle its shit without compensation, it just wouldn't compensate and we'd die as a species. But we can compensate. We see that all the time with HA, right? You're all walking around still surviving, like we're not just falling, we're not just dropping to the ground left, right, and center. Like, we're very good at adapting and making use of what we have, so the body can hold on for quite a while without, immediate access to certain nutrients. It's really the chronic, prolonged over years that we're not receiving certain nutrients. That's where the issue comes in.
Oh, 100%, PS, I just looked it up, and basically it's so interesting. It's kind of based on what we would say, like it's like eating every 3 to 4 hours. So it's really focused on blood sugar stability, eating whenever you wake up, like kind of like avoiding like the PUFAs and I think it's like the fats, like kind of like avoiding like the almond milk, almond butters, nuts, seeds, some like soybean oil, sunflower oil, all the different kind of fish oil, canola oil. Anyways, long story short, like that's like, we don't want to get too much into that, especially on here, but they are like pro white potato, like white potatoes, raw carrots, beef liver from grass-fed cows, orange juice, organic eggs, raw milk from grass-fed cows, raw cheese, raw butter, bone broth, coffee, shellfish, whitefish, coconut oil, fruit, beets, white rice, honey, maple syrup. Anyways.
Okay, yeah. So everything that so that's the term for what we promote.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so basically, like whenever she said that, I was like, I'm not anti it, but the basis of this whole thing is that we have to eat enough to even enter into this world, right? To even like participate in this type of eating, you have to be eating enough.
When you say to participate in this type of eating, you mean like to participate in it and have it give you the benefits that you are looking for?
Yes. Or technically, I mean, like, I feel like it's not even the first step. It's the foundation step that like, you can't quite, it's like the like entry fee. The entry fee into this event is you have to be eating enough.
Yeah. You have to pre-qualify.
Yes. And so, but anyway, so I thought it was just really interesting because I do think that whenever we come from a dieting mentality, which is kind of what you and I were talking about before we got on here, it seems like we're constantly trying to game the system, meaning what way can I eat or what supplement can I take that will allow me to eat the minimum amount and still recover. Right. So that was really what you and I address is that mindset right then and there, you know, to help women recover, because honestly, people have recovered on a wide variety of different types of eating styles. But the one thing that remains the same, the like entry fee, is that you have to be eating enough. Like that doesn't change.
Yeah. So I love this. I've been talking about this actually a fair bit today. I'm tired. I'm on back-to-back calls today. I think you might be too.
That was me yesterday. I was like,
I'm tired. So I'll sort of, hold please. Okay, guys, we're back. This is where the lunch break was. Sorry, not the lunch break. Insert the ad break right here. Boom. Okay. Because I just got a phone call and we had to pause recording, but we're back. So yes, I have been discussing with people a lot lately that we don't typically begin anyone's recovery protocol with like a ton of supplements. It's often like, let's get your basics lined up. Are you eating, you know, for metabolic whatevs, are you eating in this way? And the reason for that is so that you have like a fundamental foundation that your body needs in order to, quite frankly, do a lot of this work itself. Like if you are eating enough of the basics, you are going to make a significant dent in your recovery. And like, that's just where it's at. So then once we have been doing that for some time, you know, then we might go down a supplementation route, especially if we are seeing someone who was a vegan or vegetarian or pescatarian or something like that. But the foundations are always the ones we have to work on first. And we're going to try and make the most progress towards recovery as we can with just getting you to eat enough of those things.
Yeah. And this is a great segue because one of the biggest things is that one of the reasons why we do the food reviews, even with my clients, like ongoing clients, is because if not, it's really hard to like as a coach, but also as a client, to be able to accurately assess your blind spot. Like it is a blind spot, right? And so it's just really unkind to ask you to assess how things are going based on something that is like almost hidden from you, right? And so really the food review, I always do it with my clients. Like I share a screen and, you know, like I talk about it and stuff like that, you know, like we both do that. And so really and truly then like we get an idea of how do they how do they like to eat? And then I will combine 3 or 4 days and be like, okay, out of these 3 or 4 days, like, let's make one optimal day. And I just want this to kind of like be like your structure. You know what I mean? So it's never a focus on like, and then this sausage is what saved everything, right? It's really like teaching them what does enough food look like for them using the foods that they enjoy.
Yeah, consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doing it consistently, because like the sausage, just like one day of the sausage isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does have to be consistent. It does have to be intentional. I like what you also mentioned earlier about like there's a ticket to entry for this, right? So, and part of why you kind of brought this up in the first place, I think, was this idea that you can start eating in this one way or this new way, and then like expect your period to just come back, and we get confused why it's not. And I have so many thoughts on this. I think it's so important. When we go into recovery, we usually have to start eating more food. And so it feels like you're eating more food. If you're listening to this right now, there's a strong chance you are this person right now. I am eating so much more food. Where is my period? And it's like, yes, you are eating so much more food compared to what you were eating before. Relative to what you're eating before, absolutely. And so this is where we reach a sticking point. Now we have to get over the hurdle of, okay, you increased food up to potentially a maintenance level, maybe even not, right? Like if you were only eating 1,200 calories a day, eating 2,000 calories a day is going to feel chronically high. It's going to feel immensely high, but it's still not enough. And so you have to get past that barrier, that mental hurdle of eating more isn't necessarily eating enough, and coming up to maintenance isn't necessarily going to get you a period back, because you actually need to enter a surplus. Maintenance doesn't bring periods back. Surpluses bring periods back.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting too, because I know that some people are like, what do you mean the surplus? That's a magical myth that some peeps be talking about. Right. And really and truly, I haven't had one client who hasn't needed to go into a surplus in order to kickstart. That doesn't mean that they stay in a surplus forever. But and you know, like I've even had one that was like, she honestly thought she was in the surplus. And so she had been eating what I would, even again, I would be like looking at it and I'm like, it's really hard to tell you what else you need to do other than you actually just need bigger portions, because you're not ovulating. Like you're having a bleed, but you're not ovulating, right? And so whether I think you're eating enough is irrelevant. Like, what is your body saying?
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing.
We can totally be tricked. Like we could look at photos of your food logs and be like, oh, she really looks like she's eating, you know, because like if you see it enough, we have a idea in our head of what's like often enough.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your period back, we can usually look harder at it.
100%.
I know a question on your mind is, how long will recovery take me? And I know that because I get that question a lot. And it's tough because the timeline can be really unknown. And look, I can't give you a magic answer that's 100% accurate, but what I can do is ask you a whole lot of questions to understand things like what your lifestyle is, where your mindset's at, what have you already tried, what are you willing to try and not willing to try, and a lot more questions like that to determine a general range that you could expect. So I created a quiz to help get that answer to you because I was asking these types of questions to girls all the time. So I thought I'd make a quiz, and it's called How Long Might It Take to Get My Period Back? The quiz. So once you go through it and you answer the questions, it will give you not just a time range, but a quick description of how you might be feeling to help you connect with that answer and see it, make sure, yes, like this fits, this feels good for me. And don't worry, these ranges don't have to be set in stone at all. The goal is to allow you to look at the range that came based on your answers and decide, do I want to do this or do I want to speed this up? So once you get your range, you'll also get a few emails from me that week with some important tips that are specific to you to help you work through some of the roadblocks that could be slowing you down and in turn speed up your recovery time frame. So take the quiz now. Just head to quiz.thehasociety.com or find the link in the show notes and let's do this. That's quiz.thehasociety.com.
Yeah. And then I also had another one who was like, I'm working with a dietitian and she says I'm eating enough. And I'm like, I'm sure that dietitian is coming from a great place. You know what I mean? But really no one can tell you if it's enough. Your body's the only one that can tell you it's enough. And it'll tell you it's enough by turning back on. Right. And so that's where, I think you and I kind of like went on this tangent of like, I think it was our community call where it's like, we have to, like, HA forces you to get to this place where we are no longer looking for external validation and or guidance from other people. And we have to let our body lead or else we're not going to recover. And so in this example, letting your body lead is, okay, this may be what someone else deems is enough. But the ultimate authority on this is, what did my body say? My temperatures are low or they're erratic and or I'm having an ovulatory cycle. So my body is actually very clear and there's no mixed signals. There's no mixed signals. There's, you know what I mean? It's quote unquote very simple.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how we have this objective evidence, but we're still looking for the subjective things. Mm-hmm. That hint to us that maybe this isn't what we need to do. It's like, I mean, I'd love to agree with you that you're eating enough. And yeah, maybe I even think that's a lot of food, but like, if you're still exercising 4 times a week, then it makes sense that you would actually need to eat even more than this, or like, like it's all very nuanced.
Well, yeah. And then it comes back from coming up out of that deficit, that, that surplus.
Yes. So yeah, I liked what you were talking about there. If you break your foot, right, you don't just keep walking the same amount. You don't just keep walking your regular amount. You have a surplus of rest.
Mm-hmm.
You spend more time off your foot to let it heal. In this instance, you need a surplus of food. Now, if you've had HA for any kind of significant amount of time, or been on birth control for any significant amount of time, you are in some kind of nutrient depletion state. Like, end of story. So it actually, like, it's not always just about the energy. It is for getting your period back, but like, depending on your history, you're also in a nutrient depleted state. We need to replenish that, and you don't replenish that with maintenance calories and maintenance food intake. And then also just with hypothalamic amenorrhea, you're trying to tell your body it's safe. You're trying to get into a environment. You're basically rebuilding an environment where you have access to food, you have access to rest, and you have less on your plate stress wise, but more on your plate food wise. And you need that surplus of rest and that surplus of calories to bring yourself up out of the chronic deficit. Like, HA should just translate to chronic deficit.
Yeah. And kind of going on based on your foot analogy I was thinking of like, just because a doctor says that this should take 4 or 5 weeks, if it's not healed at week 5, you don't just go like, oh, it's healed, and then like act as if it's healed, right? Like, you don't just go walk on a leg that's still broken or still needs more rest just because someone said that this, like this is the timeline. or this is the parameter, right? So like we would never in our wildest dreams do that. So it makes me think about, as we're healing, so same concept, healing, we do need to check in and like, okay, that may be the guidelines, but that's not where my body's at, and therefore I must adjust.
I love it. Do we feel like we reached?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
this, the message here is what?
Yeah, so let's wrap it up. The message is that your body must lead during this healing journey.
Yes. So you mentioned it earlier, this community call we did on Saturday, it was so good. I have actually brought it up in every client call I've had this week.
Yeah.
Specifically the piece where you butted in and were like the compliance, like you will comply. That was you should just tell it. So I was traveling to the North Rim because I just did the rim to rim, North Rim to South Rim, and I was avoiding listening to this book because I knew it was going to hit me. But I finally dove into Atlas of the Heart, and Brene Brown goes through not just shame and guilt, but she goes through all the emotions and how they're connected, and how if we're feeling this emotion, it gets manifested in this way. And so as coaching, you're just like, this is treasure trove material, right? You're like, I've got all my coaching nuggets for the next 2 years.
100%, right? I mean, like, I'm very much that way. I'm like, I'm not going to go to like some course. I'm gonna like go to someone who like studies shame and guilt and like all the emotions, right? Anyways, and so she was talking about comparing, because like we've always talked about comparing, which I love that we talk about it this way, is that it's really a form of justifying our behavior. Like that's why we want to compare, because we want to protect something and we want to keep our routine. And so therefore we compare so that we can build up evidence in our favor to protect the routine that's keeping us from like recovering. And so that's been a great nugget. And you and I have been working off of that for like a long time. But then I was listening to her book, and she was talking about how comparing, everybody like grab your like armchair, was about, oh my gosh, it was about complying and competing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is hitting me so deep, but I don't fully understand it. Like I know I've just scratched the surface of what she's talking about, of complying yet competing at the same time. And the example she said was almost that like and it makes sense, like we want to be like other people, hence why we're like, well, she can do it, right? But yet we're competing because we feel inferior that we don't have our period, even though she does. So like we are competing on while complying at the same time. And so I know that may not be hitting people, but if you break it up, you can totally see it functioning in the HA world. We're like complying by being a certain size that everyone likes and appreciates and applauds, but yet we're competing because we're pissed off that we're not where somebody else is, such as have a six-pack and have a period. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, like you can tell there's a lot of rabbit holes to go down, but I think everyone can connect that like this has nothing to do with food. It's about the stories and the narratives and the comparison and the competition. And I really relate with the competition thing, right? My thing, was that I want to be special. I want to be special. I want to be seen. I want to, and it's funny as well, because being special also means like complying to like, so it's very confusing. And it wasn't until I was like, hang on a second, by going in the other direction and going down the route of recovery and going down the route of like being in the body I'm meant to be in, that is what and like wearing that with pride and standing tall and being vocal, that is actually what will make me special. And I've been working so hard to be special that like no one sees me. And I think I think that's where the competition piece comes in for me. And so then I was able to let my body lead instead of telling it, you will comply. I will give you this much food and you will give the outcome that I believe I'm supposed to get if I give you this exact amount of food. And
yeah, no, there's so many like rabbit holes. Cause I don't think I even I pushed pause because I was just struggling to catch up mentally. Cause I was like, hold on, I feel like this is opening like 12 doors and I can't keep track of all the different doors. So I need to like push pause. So I don't even know what she said after that. So I'm super excited. All I know was that this like just hit me with a ton of bricks. And I was just really thinking about all my different clients, myself, just our community in general. And like, is this true? Like, is this something that I see anecdotally?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Is this true in our community? And so that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
like the last two calls, we really went down that route, talking more about that. And yeah, I feel like it resonated with people more than any call that I can remember has.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm almost like, does Saturday just need to be like, you know?
Yeah. Like just like Brene Brown Day. No. So I'm clearly going to have to finish the rest of the book because I'm just interested in what else, you know what I mean? But, yeah, just fleshing that out in general of, yeah, because you and I also talk about how it's really not comparing that's the issue. Like that's how we take in information. That's how we sort information. That's how we do things. You know what I mean? And it's obviously like, can I just be aware that I'm like, there's two forces, complying and competing, that are actually what's causing the tension. It's actually not the comparing in itself, which allows us to exit the rabbit hole with our brain and heart intact. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Not getting eaten up. So yeah, clearly going to have to finish the rest of the book, but I was just sitting there being like, oh, I have to share this with you guys.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's so good. It's been a very helpful coaching nugget, and every single person has just been like, yes, I am.
Yeah, I think everybody can sit there and look at themselves and be like, this is where I compare and this is where this is where I comply and this is where I compete. Like, yes.
And you just like, you don't realize that you're doing that. It really feels like you are just doing all of the research. I'm just taking in all of the facts. I'm considering all of the possibilities, but actually that's not what's happening. You're just trying to find a way to, avoid doing the thing that scares you, which is coming from a voice in your mind that is trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe. It is well-meaning. It's just not well-educated, that voice.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
We have to have a lot of compassion for it, and you have to thank it. It's like, thank you for your concern, but I'm okay. Yeah. Until you sort of start looking at that voice for what it is, which is just a fear mongering.
Yeah, I like to think of it kind of like as like resistance. Like I was just talking to somebody about this. Like I don't think we have to rid ourselves of resistance, because I don't really even know that's possible, nor do I think all our energy should be like spent doing that. So I was talking with a client, well, 2 clients this week, of, is this resistance like, I don't want to wash my face before bed? Like I want clear skin and I want good skin and I appreciate my nice skin, but
I just don't feel like it right now.
I just don't feel like it. Or like, I don't want to brush my teeth before I go. I just want to go to bed. Right. But I like my teeth being clean. You know what I mean? So can we put this in that category of, I don't want to do these things, but I want what's on the other side. Right. And none of us walk around not brushing our teeth, not showering, not brushing our hair, not washing our face. You know what I mean? Like none of us do that, although we may not always be pumped about it. And so that's why I'm always like, what if resistance is just like an annoying default that you're like, okay, thank you, Thank you for your like input, but I'm probably just not going to go that route, right? Rather than letting it lead or drive the ship, right? Like you would never let those other resistance drive the ship. Like, and I'm just not brushing my teeth for like 5 days until I get really motivated.
Yeah, it is one of the earliest disciplines that we learn. Such a good example.
Yeah.
I love that example. I truthfully do have moments where I, a few times, have been like, oh, I have to brush my teeth. And then I think about how like every day for as long as I live, I have to do this twice every single day for the rest of my life. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel for this mundane task. It's so bothersome for me, but I do it.
So what's interesting is that Nuggy's in this phase where she'll sit in the sink while I'm getting ready, and she loves brushing her teeth simply just because she sees me brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
And so I know it's going to change, but it's just even interesting of like,
maybe it won't. Maybe because you've always brushed your teeth with her, it will just stick.
Yeah. I'm definitely not like receiving premeditated doom, but it was just interesting that like, like maybe there wasn't always a time where we despised it, but now there is, and I can't listen to it. Right. So anyways, the long story short was that there is a difference between like resistance that is just silly, and let it just be silly. It's just that it's silly. And then there's like resistance that's calling us to look deeper. Right. And it's okay if some of the resistance to recovering is just silly because you want what's on the other side.
Totally. I know you need to finish up for your next call. So one of the things that I use to help with breaking the resistance, the voice that is resisting, is I say, this is so boring. Like, the resistance is boring, because the resistance with HA is, it's a lot more, it's a bit different to teeth brushing, and the fact that, there's like, it's not just that you're lazy. It's, and so I'll go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, but I feel like maybe my clothes are fitting tight, or like this person I saw the other day that's like wearing a crop top, like, made me think that something about myself, yada yada. And I'll see it happening very quickly, and I'll stop. Sure, I might think the voice, but I also am just like, this is boring, and I don't feel like going down this rabbit hole anymore. I think a lot of us get there because it literally is actually kind of boring, and you're so sick of doing it. But it does help me to change the perspective I'm looking at this at and make the next best decision.
Yeah, totally. And just simply the fact of like, I like to remind myself this rabbit hole gets me nowhere. I've been to the end.
Yeah, it's boring.
And you are empty-handed. You know what I mean? To the point of like, everyone who has HA you are officially at the end of the dieting rabbit hole, and you are not getting what you thought you would. And this is it. Like, this is the prize, a whole big whopping nothing. And so I like to like remind myself that rabbit hole leads to like, I just have this vision of like a legit rabbit hole, and it's bare. It's like that tan, and it's bare. It's, there's nothing in it. And their only option is to turn around and come back out. Like, that's how I visualize, like, whenever I get stuck in like a dieting or comparing, or like, I wish I looked more fit like I did before. I'm like, I know where that leads me. I've been there. Like, I had a home there, camped out there for a while, That's my brain.
I like it a lot. I love it. I love a good visual.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us all today.
Absolutely. This was fun.
Okay. If you want to hear more from Ashley, she's Ashley_Marie_Smith_ on the gram. You know where to find me, Dani Sheriff. And if you guys want to chat with us on the reg, work with us, we would love and be honored to help you get your period back. So you can learn about that at thehasociety.com/coaching, or join the waitlist for the HA Society, which is opening up again in, I don't know when this is coming out, so I won't say, but soon, and you can figure that out at thehasociety.com/join, and the links are in the description. Thanks everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
Tired of guessing your glucose levels all the time? How about a better way to manage your diabetes? Introducing the Eversense E3 CGM system, the only 6-month continuous glucose monitoring system. With real-time glucose readings every 5 minutes delivered to your mobile device and exceptional accuracy over 6 months, Eversense E3 gives you readings you can count on.
For important safety information and to learn more about Eversense, visit eversensediabetes.com/safety. Accuracy evaluated in adult populations with 2 calibrations per day or less.